The part that made me to believe this child's story was that when he finally said this baby, he talked about several, but this particular baby had been killed, stabbed again, different way, but stabbed. He curled up in a fetal position. He was 9 years old when he was telling this story. He curled up in a fetal position, and his eyes got real glazed, and he said, they cooked that baby on the grill. Oh, my gosh. And I thought, he has really flipped out.
So the things we're going to discuss today are pretty dark, sad, and disturbing even. But something that I think is important to talk about, at least. Now, the woman that was just speaking was Kathleen Sorensen, and story goes is that she ran an orphanage where she would take on some of the rougher children, the children that had a history of abuse and didn't come from nice families, and she would try her best at providing them with a good, loving environment to be raised in, so that might grow up to be good people, you know.
I didn't get any answers from that child about what happened to the bodies. Where did they go? Eventually, the little ones that I was talking about first talked about throwing the babies in the fire. And I asked about that, and you mean they were dead and then they threw them in the fire, and the littlest one said, no, them was alive, and them threw them, like this.
She talks a lot about the ritualistic sacrificing of humans, and it's the stuff she describes, or at least the stuff that these children would describe to her, is just like monstrous. It's almost, you think that was going on in barbarian times, but apparently it's going on today, or at least back then, might as well be today. Now, barbarians and history in general is a pretty good place to start, because human sacrificing humans is nothing new. It's been going on for a very long time. I mean, I guess you could say that war is a form of human sacrifice. The Romans, the Greeks, the Carthaginians, the Canaanites, the Gauls, and what the Druids used to do back in the forest, and the Irish, and oh my goodness, and the Mayans. The Mayans is a great example of like some heavy human sacrificing. Those pyramids down in Mexico, wow, they have seen some blood. I've heard stories like thousands of people in a matter of days were murdered on the top of those pyramids, sacrificed in the name of their gods. I heard they would scrape their bellies open and then take out their hearts, and one priest would eat the heart, the other priest would collect the blood and drink all the blood, and oh my god, what in God's name? It's pretty crazy stuff, but it 100% has happened in history and is still happening today, from what I can understand. To what extent, to what degree, and where and how, I don't really know, but this young woman here, Teresa, seems to have an idea.
It would be hard to imagine more misery and suffering than what Teresa says she's had to endure.
Then us kids would be made to do things with the adults and the animals, and then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice? Were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people.
Now, I can't say if this story in particular is real. I mean, a poor girl like that, man, I wouldn't be able to make that up at her age. I'm not convinced.
Shh. This couldn't be a terrible dream, a nightmare that you're reliving.
No. It's no dream. It's a nightmare, but it's not one you can wake up from. It's there all the time.
This really happened? You're quite sure of that?
Yeah.
The police don't think Teresa made up a story. Some of the cult members are to stand trial. 5 men have been charged with rape.
Now, what Teresa's talking about here isn't the classical sense of human sacrificing. It's something a little more dark and twisted. The whole subject of human sacrificing is dark and twisted. But like her, it's really like what she went through, or what she says she went through, is really like, what the hell is that? And that's really, really what it is. It's something from hell, man.
During these ceremonies, was Satan, the devil, ever referred to?
He was called Lucifer.
What did they say about the devil, about Lucifer?
That killing the people made him happy.
Sacrifices to please the devil.
To talk about
According to Teresa, the worst rituals took place at a house, somewhere in the country.
it was big, you know, expensive. From the front, it looked like a castle. You know, it had a long drive and big double wooden doors.
Do you think they were rich people then?
Very rich.
Man, this video is getting dark. Now, if what you're thinking, if you still have a little bit of skepticism in any of this, I'll be really honest with you. I was too, and so I started surfing the internet, and I've seen some bad things. I've seen some videos of some of the stuff we're talking about, and it's probably some of the worst things I've ever seen. And I really don't like it. I don't like that this stuff is going on. I think it's terrible, and I don't want it to go on. And I think the best way to fight this stuff is to at least be aware that it happens, you know. And I think that's really the first step to it, to stopping it, is to know it's happening, you know. Like I said, I don't know how much of it, I don't know how bad it is, but at the same time, it's like any of it, just a little bit of it is bad, you know what I mean?
On what scale do you think this was happening?
Enormous, far beyond what we've ever heard of here before.
You're talking about mass murder.
Yes, on a scale that this country's never heard of before. Like the old people.